So you created a company called Vega Partners. What did you do before Vega?
I was on the giving side. So I worked at Exelon, like you mentioned, and what was then called Urban Partnership Bank. It was community bank. And so we helped to design, what the program could look like for those companies to be healthy corporate citizens. Like, how do you support your employees and your customers and your entire supply chain when you think about it, in terms of where operations are and where your employees live, work, and play. And then before that, I had a long career as a fundraiser. So I'm one of the few people who's had the opportunity to sit on both sides of that coin. Knowing what it's like to go ask for it and make the case to get that request granted.
Right.
And then also having to review the case, and then help make a decision.
For people asking you for money.
Yeah.
All right. So, for example, you were at the Goodman Theater for a while, and there you would make requests to companies or others to give money, and you cross your finger and be like, I hope they give us this $1 million. And then
we do more than cross our fingers.
Right. And then later in your career, you were on the other side, where Goodman or someone would come to you at Exelon and you'd be like, no, you ain't getting that money that easy. You got to do some more stuff. I worked way harder than you did.
Yeah, well, it's not about easy. It's just that, they call the giving side of philanthropy the dark side, because you will say no more times than you say yes. Resources are still limited. And, you can argue that anybody who comes to see you has a great case, right? And so even now, like we talked about the African American Legacy Fund at the Chicago Community Trust. And, as a volunteer, I chair the grant making committee for that. And we get a lot of really great requests, but we don't have the ability to say yes to all of them.
Right.
And
this is charities who come to the African American Legacy Fund asking for $5,000, $10,000, $20,000, $50,000, whatever, to help them build their charity up.
Right. The grants from the fund are small. The fund is not like a big corporation, right? But it is definitely you're tougher. Because you can argue that they are all doing something good and something worthy of a few bucks. And so you got to make some tough calls.
Yeah, it's not easy. I've been in that seat myself with this organization I'm part of called Pillars Fund.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a Muslim civic engagement fund that's given money away to various charities.
Yeah.
So at Vega, you run this company. You have some consultants that work with you. Corporations who make a profit come to you sometimes and will say, hey, we want to be better corporate citizens. Hopefully not WeWork coming to you. And you will say, all right, I can help you. What are your real goals? Like, where do you think you can be a better corporate? Is that kind of what you'll start, how you'll approach it with them? Yeah,
well, we'll talk to them about what they're already doing. And inevitably, they're doing something somewhere.
Are they often surprised by the fact that they're doing something and they didn't realize it?
Yeah. So you tend to see some surprise when you say, okay, tell me about this, tell me about all these things. And, it rolls up into its own narrative. And you're like, but you also said that, your growth goal was over here and you're doing this. And look at how these things can kind of intersect, right? And so part of what we're doing is helping synthesize what looks like two completely separate things, and then put some programming to it so it has a sustainable impact. It's boring management consulting, right? To some degree, but it's focused and centered on.
It's like the blocking and tackling
this
of
external piece.
Yes. It's like the blocking and tackling. It's like the everyday of the big things we're hearing about companies transforming to reflect better social consciousness. It's like the everyday of that.
Yeah.
And so it sounds boring because
maybe to me.
Everybody's everyday is pretty damn boring. I mean, come on, let's admit it. Life is boring. That's why we watch movies. You can collect all the cool moments and then we watch a movie. You know what I'm saying? So that said, I think what's valuable here, and for me to learn and for listeners to learn, is like, you have an insight on this with all your experience. Let's talk about the side where you're not on the receiving side, where you're trying to ask people for money, though I'm really interested in that. But on the side where you're talking about giving money or being a better corporate citizen, like we always hear, like there's this thing in as a Muslim, there's this thing we say, which is like, and I think every religion talks about this, but like, whatever you give away, it comes back in multiples to you.
To whom much is, well, yeah. The golden circle of generosity, or yes,
right?
Most major religions have that principle.
Exactly. So it's quite beautiful. And I must say, in my life, I feel like that's actually been true.
Yeah. Well, I've seen companies do this very effectively with or without a strategy, right? But when they are intentional about it, like it just fits together really well. There's like much greater synthesis. I think they achieve more growth.
Okay, so talk to us about that. So that's where there's money being left on the table here, I think. In people's minds, it's hard for people to wrap their minds around, wait, if I give away money from my profit,
but it's not
my profit will go down, but somehow my profit will later go up?
Yeah, it's not always money. So, one of the things that corporate social responsibility, I think, over the last 30 years has helped to highlight for companies is the notion of employee engagement and employee satisfaction. And so the research does demonstrate that happier employees, create more profitable companies, because it's really expensive to hire and fire and just keep, getting trapped in that cycle.
Training thousands of dollars.
Mm-hmm. And so when you think about, supporting your, employees or your customers around where they live and work and play and the kinds of things that they are interested in, you will find that there's greater engagement, there's greater attachment to the mission and initiatives to help drive that company, right? So yes, there is a real financial bottom line for you if you can argue that, or if you can show that you retained employees, right?
It's the kind of indirect bottom line impact.
Yeah, but it adds up.
It's still a real number.
Let's go back to the regulated company scenario.
That would be the Exelon example.
Sure, Exelon, but there are other regulated companies, right? And so when you
how about Pacific? Is it Pacific Energy?
Oh, People's Energy.
No, the West Coast, California.
And the forest fires.
Yeah,
PG&E,
Pacific Gas. Yeah.
So
that's been just such a disaster, right? You must be looking at that like train wreck.
Yeah, that was unfortunate. That's really unfortunate. So in that scenario, when you have people who are going to come to your support, your customers at large, and like, I understand that this was a mistake that was made, or this inadvertently happened, but you have been very good to our community. That can help turn things around for people.
When shit hits the fan.
When shit hits the fan. It's called social capital.
Right. Social capital, right.
Social corporate responsibility, social capital, but you always have to be building the capital.
Right.
It does not magically appear when you need to draw down on it.
So yeah, it feels like with all the PG&E is basically going bankrupt.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, like it felt like they were, not maintaining electric grids and electric infrastructure.
The grid is old, my friend.
For years, and they kept getting violations on it and told to fix it, and they would plan to fix it, but they wouldn't do it, and so multiple fires would happen. It's like there's no way to trust them anymore. Like they didn't have corporate social responsibility. It feels like
they probably did, but there are lots of elements.
You definitely weren't running it, were you?
Because it is a responsibility of the company, right, to maintain the grid for the safety and security of not just their customers but their employees. Like, think about that. Think about the people who have to climb those poles or go underground or whatever they have to do.
Oh, I thought you were going to say also like the people working. Besides the poll workers, That means multiple things, but besides the people...
No pun intended. No puns.
Definitely not.
Besides the electrical outside workers, there's also thousands of people who work at PG&E in offices.
Yeah.
And if they go bankrupt, like their whole families are all depending on
everybody, right? Impacting everybody. So...
That's irresponsibility.
But, I'm sure PG&E sponsored stuff and... gave grants away and did some stuff. So that's my point, right? You can't just do that. You have to, also
truly integrate yourself.
Responsible in terms of internally in your company. We live in these very volatile times right now. What are we doing around equity and inclusion? How do you create a culture that is in fact more inclusive?
Do you mean through, is gender and race the two big ones there?
I think disabilities is becoming an even bigger one, particularly unseen disabilities.
What's an example of that?
Mental health, right? I think that's increasingly becoming much bigger.
I do have a friend who struggles with paranoia and schizophrenia, and he can't work.
Yeah. But
he's had 100 jobs.
I know people who suffer from anxiety, and they do work. And
wow.
One of our consultants has ADD.
And are those?
And and so you have to consider what is that environment to still enable that person to be successful. Because he's like, there are things that he's just great at. I'm like, okay, well, we're not just gonna kick you to the curb, right?
The ADD person?
Yeah. In my scenario.
Yeah.
We're not just gonna kick you to the curb.
Let's figure out how to make it work.
So we got to figure out
what you need.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so that's also inclusion, not just gender, race, but also disabilities. And they can include mental health disabilities.
Yeah.
Got it. Interesting.
I think in this time where immigration is top of mind.
Yep.
For people who've never even had to think about that, right? Like now everybody knows what an H-1B visa is. Yep. All of a sudden, I think that's important to understand in work environments
for diversity inclusion.
Sure. Yeah, how is that impacting? You get a call in the middle of the day and it's some family member and ICE has shown up or whatever the case is. I mean, this is happening to people.
Right. That's legit.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. All right. So you're saying, all right, companies want to improve their bottom lines, make some more bread. It may not be a direct line item where you see a profit, but the way you might see it is your training expenses aren't as high because your employees are happier. Your revenue numbers might stay strong. You're going to
see some savings.
Savings, right?
You're going to see greater commitment and loyalty. And you can probably
from the employees, from
customers, right?
Yeah. The customer one is clearly a marketing one, where if they see you doing good in the community, that company's top of mind. They're going to go visit you.
But so again, in our world of greater and greater transparency, how you treat your employees are also important to your customers, right?
Right, especially today, right?
There used to be a very distinct wall between that, right? And so you will increasingly hear comments, well, I don't shop there because I know they treat their employees like shit.
The Nike sweatshops in Indonesia or China.
There we go. Right? That was like the 90s, right?
Right. That was such a big one in my mind for some reason, and it felt like sweatshops, basically sweatshops, right?
And there are still sweatshops,
right?
But there,
Will you say something, John?
Probably more.
Yeah.
If I would guess.
You think so?
Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. I think so too.
So there's corporate social responsibility not working.
Yeah. So some of it in the last 30 years, right, has improved as the result of, backlash, right? And also compliance. So there are things like, and don't ask me to give you an example because I can't think of any right now, but Walmart, I know, will all of a sudden launch this campaign about we're doing this. But, it's usually because they're required to, not because they woke up one day and they were like, you know what, this is the right thing for us to do for our employees, or this is the right thing that we're going to do.
Doesn't sound like
to
something
drive XYZ. And, A lot of times it's
mandatory
compliance. Yeah.
I gotcha.
Now, you know what's interesting? In other parts of the world, corporate social responsibility is a compliance issue. Like, just like you have to report your taxes to the government.
Really?
And
my guess is like Sweden, Finland, Norway.
South Africa.
Oh.
India.
Wow. In India too? Wow.
And India, I think I read recently, is lobbying for like even greater, sort of monitoring around that.
For diversity and inclusion?
Well, corporate social investment is
really?
what they call it.
Wow. Okay, that's interesting. All right, so let's go through a hypothetical. So, like, if I wanted to talk to Vega Partners and Suzanne Griffith about,
let's talk about your restaurant.
Let's do it, baby. So, there's probably 15 to 20 employees, right? There's on any given day, there's got to be a few hundred customers that walk in. So each week, especially if you include the weekend, talking about a few thousand people walking through the door. Probably call it 2,500 people walking through the door each week. And then 15 to 20 people servicing them. The first question I have is like, is it shady for me as a business owner to think, yeah, I want Suzanne to come help me here. It's going to boost my profits and my sales. That's why I want to do it. That feels kind of icky.
Nah, that's okay.
I guess that's on me. That's on me. My intentions.
Your motivation.
My motivation,
right?
my intentions, my purpose feels a little bit like it's muddled.
Your motivation.
Yeah. Like it feels like if it's going to be authentic, I should check myself.
As opposed to you saying like, we're in this neighborhood. We've been here for a long time. Should we be doing something better, or am I just going to do this?
You know what, man?
Just to get more than 2,500 people a week.
Right. I feel like it should be more from like this, like, yo, these people put food on my table. These people put food on the table of my employees.
But what if you kept the same 2,500 people every week or whatever it was, right? But you just saw profitability increase because guess what? They actually just order out more or they refer you more.
Yeah, or they just order more when they
order more. They stay longer.
I'm gonna grab an extra drink or dessert or whatever. They just feel the vibe is. Yeah, that feels like a better intention. It's like, yo, these people are important to me.
But listen to you, right? So like your profitability could potentially increase, right? Without it being like this math game that you're playing. Like if we do this, then this, right? Like if we...
Again, black and white. I'm trying to see. And what are you saying about that?
I'm just saying, we can just turn it to a different angle. That's
what I'm asking you to help me with. And I'm thinking... People who are listening or other business owners.
So here's another example.
Because I think we get obsessed with profit. Like,
of course.
And that's why I question the big banks and other big corporations. It's like there are armies of people just thinking about profit. I'm one business owner who's like, I got to make sure this thing doesn't go underwater because my family needs it and these 15 other people's families need it. So I got to make sure everything's copacetic. And so I think I get too fixated on that. And you're saying release the grip a little bit. And think about, hey, are these people important human beings? They're the people that all human beings are important. They're the ones that are interacting with you on a daily basis. Why don't you make that interaction more powerful? Mm-hmm. Why don't you make it more? Why don't you improve it? Why don't you make it better, healthier?
It's deeper. So do you guys? I know that there are all kinds of rules and whatnot, but are you able to donate any of your leftover food or produce or however that, I don't know what the rules are exactly around that. Yeah,
it depends. Some places will receive that food, some will not. Mm-hmm. I don't think there's any law against saying like, hey, we cooked a bunch of food and we just drove around and gave it to homeless people. Who's going to stop me from doing that?
No, but
so they can do that.
There's shelters that you could.
Some shelters will take, some shelters will not. Right. I have looked into. So it just depends. It's shelter specific. But in general, there's no regulation against us giving to those shelters.
Okay. So we would say if you're already doing things like that, let's identify some signature partnerships.
Right. So for example, if we're doing it with Greater Food Depository, it's like, yo, instead of just dropping off all the time, let's talk to Greater Food Depository's management and see if we can hook something up.
And then that's like maybe the first layer. And then you've got 20 employees and their families, right? I bet you it's a pretty close-knit group.
Absolutely.
Maybe your staff party one year is to volunteer at the Greater Food Depository.
Nice gangster move. That'll bond some people together, and we're doing good.
That's the next layer. All right, maybe.
Or since we're in Hyde Park, this restaurant's in Hyde Park, we can go clean up a park or do kind of things like that.
Yeah, but let's keep it connected to food.
I forgot about that.
Let's keep it connected to food.
Right. And so maybe ideally a partnership.
Yeah, and maybe another thing is that, like, okay, can we engage do we have suppliers that we could engage with?
Vendors, right? Mm-hmm. Get them on board.
And then ultimately, how do we engage our customers? Greater Food Depository, I mean, so my girl Nicole works there and she's amazing. And we are entering the season where they're going to do a huge push for support and contributions to get people fed during the American holidays, right? Thanksgiving, and Christmas, and all of that kind of stuff. Maybe there's an easy, neat way for, let's say you've established that partnership with them, that you could engage your customers in some sort of mini Cedars campaign.
Right, get them involved.
There's nothing wrong with, you getting a little bit of brand recognition and awareness from what you're doing. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of we're under this banner.
Yeah.
We got to be on some team. Yeah. This is the team we're on.
Yeah.
And this is what our team is doing. Of course, it only makes sense. Yeah. Cool.
So
I get it.
That was totally off the cuff.
That's pretty good off the cuff. I think you know what you're doing.
Restaurants are easy. So I met a guy who is in the restaurant adjacent business because they design restaurants and all the fittings and furnitures and stuff like that.
Interior designer.
It's actually probably more manufacturing, I would say. And one of the things that he does, which I think is brilliant, is they hire what they call opportunity youth, somewhere between age 18 and 24, where college didn't work out or trade school didn't work out. Maybe some other things have happened and this person needs kind of a little bit of a fresh start, right?
Sure.
So folks like that, as well as returning citizens, returning from the criminal justice system, right? To become re-entry. That's exactly it. Carpentry or whatever. So it's a hard skill building. It's a job, right?
That's great. Yeah, I can see that.
Business skills, a lot of stuff. Yeah.
So sometimes you got to be creative depending on the industry you're in,
right?
To be able to be a better corporate citizen and just help the world out a little more.
Yep.
Beautiful.
You got it.
Makes sense. Cool. I think that has become much more clear to me.
Are you
now.
a little less jaded now?
And my intentions aren't as ugly as they were a few minutes ago. I'm not just all rubbing my hands together like how we can make more money. You know what I'm saying? So no, doing good. I mean, as a Muslim, like that's what my faith has taught me, and it's all about. Being American, they often stand in contrast to each other. You are helping me marry the two. Impact your world brilliantly. Is that a Vega Partners? That's what we say. That's what we're trying to help people do. Yeah, beautiful. Whatever your world is, right? Like your block, Hyde Park, the city, the Muslim community in Hyde Park. Like you can define that in a lot of different ways. Hit them all, right? If people want to learn more about Vega Partners, how can they learn more about you, Suzanne Griffith? We are online, so just call me. I'm easy. Boom. Call me, email me, hunt me down on LinkedIn, vegapartners.com. Can I say that? Yes, say it all. Vegapartners.com, Suzanne Griffith. Suzanne Griffith. If you want to be a better corporate citizen, I know y'all are listening. I got a lot of people, friends who are like business owners, and they have their own team of 15 people. So it's like, yeah. This is your chance. This is your ticket to heaven. Right. Well, be a good neighbor and all that good stuff. Boom. Any other contact information? Just the website is where they can contact you? Oh, and then you can call us 312-625-6155. Boom. We're still doing phones. 2019, baby. Okay. I guess so, right? Hell yeah. That was Suzanne Griffith. Thank you for coming on, Suzanne. Thanks so much for having me, friend. Right? We did it, baby. We did it. John Dolder. Always a pleasure. Another episode in the bag. Yep. Thank you, brother. No problem. Peace out. Peace.